Greetings and salutations, friends, and welcome back to the Norwegian Bug Channel, where I am going to try and talk about Netflix violating yet another one of my childhood favourites, whilst hopefully avoiding having gnats ram themselves into my eyeballs. Just as I see one orbiting the camera. I can't wait for winter. I really hate summer. But unfortunately, Netflix's unyielding, unceasing, unwavering, fiery hatred for everything that is good and proper may very well push the wintry months yet another few weeks off into the future, as the latest property to come beneath their violently pistoning rape hammer is Cowboy Bebop. Now, if you haven't watched Cowboy Bebop, do. In fact, it's almost like a cultural heritage, almost. It's a historical landmark in a certain way. Now, yes, granted, the story, the pacing, and the overall delivery hasn't probably aged all that well, frankly. It was from an era where everyone was really experimenting with how to do anime well in an episodic format, and they were also kind of trying to figure out what could really strike it home with a lot of people, because it was quite niche back then. And Cowboy Bebop was that home run, as it broke into the American market and was one of the major reasons why anime was able to reach a wider audience and eventually go mainstream. Thanks so much for that, by the way. The mainstream. Anyways, it is one of those really old-school animes, and even if the story can get a little bit draggy at times, you need to watch it to fully appreciate the time back in the day when making anime, making animations was an actual, legitimate, genuine art form, where every frame is a painting, where the animators take such painstaking pride in their craft that, I mean, it's amazing. Especially after having watched Hammer and Bolter, it gives you a good idea of just how tall the mountain we've fallen off of actually was. If nothing else, find it somewhere, the anime obviously, not the Netflix version, jump like halfway in the show and just appreciate some of the style of it all, because it really is genuinely beautiful in an artistic way. And therefore, of course, Netflix is going to ruin it with a live-action adaptation. Why do we make live-action adaptations of goddamn anything, is my first and foremost question, but oh well. I mean, is it cheaper? I guess, I suppose, I presume. But is that a good enough reason? Oh, that leads us back to the whole animation thing, doesn't it? Back in the day, making good animations was an art form. It was a quality. It was something to be done to the extent of one's ability and knowledge, and screw the costs of it all. Now, well, you know, just put a dude in a rubber hose costume and hope the audience doesn't notice. And on that note, let me introduce you to the first Netflix cast member, Jet, who has been out in the sun a little bit too long. Well, it's Netflix. They've got to race swap at least one character, and in fact, I think that is literally part of the contract you need to sign with Netflix at this point. Though, I hate his mechanical arm because it doesn't look mechanical at all. It looks like a rubber glove, more so than anything, which is kind of annoying. Then we have Spike, and Spike doesn't look too bad, honestly. He's, like, the ridiculous hairdo would be difficult to pull off. He needs a little bit more volume on the side there, but the suit looks just about right. And then again, how hard could it be to replicate a suit, I suppose? But again, it's Netflix. Do not underestimate their ability to absolutely mercilessly screw up repeatedly. If anything, my biggest complaint about Spike is he looks a little bit too serious, both here and the other promotional shot we'll be looking at in a little bit. Spike can be quite the happy-go-lucky kind of guy, and in fact, initially, Cowboy Bebop comes across as a very kind of light and humoristic style of show, though it takes a rather violent turn on that particular front. And then, of course, we have Faye, who's literally only capitulation to her original costume is the fact that her top is yellow. Oh, I guess you could kind of argue the jacket as well. Granted, it's the wrong shade of red and the wrong material, but hey, details. At least they got her hair color more or less correct. That's something, right, by Netflix standards. Man, standards have dropped, haven't they? And then a little ensemble shot here, where we get to see the painfully cheap-looking background. Now, in part, I kind of get that because the appearance of their starship is very ramshackable. It's not necessarily all that futuristic at all, but I mean, these are like rubbery-looking bulkheads, the retarded lamp up here, the little random lighting as they've just kind of strewn pipes across the background, giant speaker, because why not, etc. Not a huge fan. At least I've got the couch. Jet, of course, again, you can see the rubber glove, not particularly impressive there. Spike again looks the best out of the bunch, and Faye in her slightly more covered up costume. Now, Netflix. Why? Like, if you just took Cowboy Bebop, right? The anime, mind you. You spruced it up a little bit. Hell, you wouldn't even need, not even really, like, do not remake it. God help you, do not remake it, unless you are willing to put in the same amount of effort and time to hand draw and animate everything. But what you could do is just get a hold of the original somehow, if they're still alive actually at this point, or get the digital version and touch it up a little bit, fix up the colors a little bit, because they often were a little bit mixed bag, shall we say. All of the characters do change their skin tones quite frequently due to the problem with actually getting the material to render and read properly. Now, touch it up a little bit here and there. Maybe even go so far as to rewrite some of it to flow a little bit better because it got some pacing issues. Oh God, does it. And hey, maybe even add in a couple extra frames to smooth out the animations even further in those occasional areas where they were like, okay, well, we have to actually finish this episode at one point, so this one gets a little bit of a quick fix on it. That would be something, but a live-action variant? Why? I mean, hell, He-Man, I suppose, gives us the why. The why is because this will ruin yet another franchise. I'm almost starting to think that Netflix is doing this on purpose so that they can buy out the original, and then in 3 or 4 or 5 years' time, when everyone has forgotten about it, they can be like, oh God, no, we're so sorry. That last thing, awful, absolutely awful. You're right, it was trash, but this time we'll do it right. And they'll actually do it, and they'll own the setting and all of the toy rights. It would be devilishly fiendish, wouldn't it? And it would remind me a little bit of the Peter Molyneux argument. Those of you who are fans of a little bit of the older school of video gaming know that. The creator of Black and White and Fable, who tended to make the argument that, oh no, that previous game, that wasn't good enough. It had so much jank in it, blah blah blah. This time, we're gonna make it so much better. A man infamous for stretching for the moon and barely grasping a tuft. Sorry, well, that's not fair. Black and White was a hilariously great little game, although it barely functioned at certain elements. On the whole, your creature will grow alongside you was a complete and utter bullshitting lie as well. The thing will grow to about a fifth of its total size and then just stop. And you'll go through 3 more islands and you're like, why aren't you growing? Anywho, slight sidetrack there. Netflix live-action series. I mean, it isn't even that Netflix can't make a good live-action series. They have made it in the past. I've mentioned Kingdom, previously the Korean series. That one was really, really good. Then again, for every Kingdoms, I suppose you do have a cuties as well, but there's only one underage child in Cowboy Bebop, who, by the way, apparently, according to rumors, will now be a non-binary character. Because of course. I'm sure Jet and Spike will have some kind of homosexual romance in the middle of it as well, just to tick that extra few little boxes there. Sigh. Could it be good? Maybe. Well, I mean, we haven't seen any actual footage of it yet, but man, can footage be deceiving. Again, I remind you of the He-Man trailer. The one with the awesome-ass, like, 80s music blaring in the background with He-Man kicking ass. Holy shit. If the actual series had been that, it would have been fantastic, but no. The cutting team who made the trailer knew what people actually wanted, whereas the actual creators, well, they probably knew what people wanted as well, and that is why they went out to make the exact opposite. Let's hope that Cowboy Bebop doesn't get quite the same treatment, though from what I've seen already, don't count on it. On the bright side, and hey, hear me out here, maybe if Cowboy Bebop was such a brilliant little gem as to make anime mainstream in the first place, perhaps the live-action series will be such an absolute abomination so as to make it non-mainstream again. A return to quality and actual passion. You know what? Maybe the nuclear option would be the right one to go for after all. Until next time, I've been Arch. Thank you all very much for watching, and I hope to see you all again soon. Till then, have a good day.